It's been over a full year since we've last seen Zion Williamson play. Over that span, there were rumors about him wanting out of New Orleans and his weight, questions about when he'd play again, and eventually a contract extension worth $193 million over the course of 5 years. And to be honest, I'm really sick of all the noise. I just want to see Zion play. When he last played, he was absolutely dominant, and I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good he was. He was an all-star and could have absolutely have been an All-NBA player if the Pelicans had seen more team success. There's a reason 2019 was referred to as the Zion Williamson draft, and since he last played, the Pelicans roster has improved drastically in terms of overall talent as well as fit around Zion as a dominant paint presence. This improvement, combined with a potential third season jump from Zion, make a perfect storm for what I believe could be a historic season for the high flyer out of Duke. I think there's a real chance Zion Williamson is not only in MVP conversations throughout the year, but ends up winning the award itself, joining Derrick Rose as some of the youngest to ever take home the honors. Let's talk about why Zion Williamson could win MVP. To start, let's look back at the last time we saw Zion play. Zion Williamson's sophomore season was nothing short of historic. The former first overall pick averaged 27 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, and 3.7 assists on 61% shooting as a 6'6", 20-year-old. This by itself is obviously incredibly impressive, but let's put it in some perspective. Here's the list of players that have averaged 27 points per game on 60% or better shooting at the age of 20 years old. It's just Zion. Now let's remove the age limit. Oh, it's still just Zion? No Shaq, no Kareem, Hakeem, Wilt, Russell, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, no anybody? Just Zion? Well, that's kind of crazy. Oh, and he also tied Shaq's record of 25 consecutive games with 20 or more points on at least 50% shooting. If you tie any record of Shaq's that doesn't involve free throw shooting, you're probably in some pretty great company. And once again, that was just his second season at the age of 20 years old. It's even more impressive when you factor in the talent he had around him. The 2020-2021 Pelicans had some solid names, guys like Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Steven Adams, and Eric Bledsoe. However, these names don't make up a roster that fits well around Zion Williamson. For Zion to be the most effective, his supporting cast should be floor spacers that allow him to attack the paint at will, generating both high-efficiency looks for himself, as well as others when the paint has to inevitably collapse to prevent him from scoring basically every single time. That roster did not do that. The 2021 Pelicans were the 5th worst three-point shooting team in the entire NBA at 34.8%, only ahead of the Cavs, Thunder, Rockets, and Magic, 4 teams that were tanking at the time. And before you say it, Zion only shot 0.6 threes a game that season, so it wasn't his fault. Despite this complete failure to build an effective roster around Zion, he still put up these incredible and historic numbers. But that roster isn't the same. The roster being bad is not the case anymore. Since he last played, the Pelicans have overhauled the team immensely, to the point where the only starter that remains from his last time he played is Brandon Ingram. And the changes that they've made are not only beneficial in terms of overall fit with Zion, but also in terms of straight up winning games. A big part of winning MVP is obviously winning games. Over the last 30 years, only 2 players have won the MVP while their team wasn't a top 3 seed in the conference. Russell Westbrook in 2016-17, Thunder legend, and Nikola Jokic this past year. So are the Pelicans good enough to push for a top 3 seed? I personally think they are. Heading into the 2022-2023 season, the Pelicans look to roll out a starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. This is off the bat one of the best starting 5s in the entire league. CJ McCollum was great at the point guard position last season after coming over from Portland, averaging 24.3 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 5.8 assists on 49.3% shooting and 39.4% shooting from 3. He was able to showcase a lot more of his playmaking chops in this role, while also continuing to be the high-level scorer he's been for most of his career. It was really fun to see him in this role, and it's one I think he's honestly better suited for than the 2 guard, which led of course to a really small and poor defensive backcourt with Dame back in Portland. At the 2, we have Brandon Ingram, who is really good at basketball. He put up 22.7 points per game this past year, alongside 5.8 rebounds and 5.6 assists, while shooting 46.1%, but also a surprisingly low 32.7% from 3. This honestly feels like an outlier year for Brandon Ingram, which probably resulted from a lack of consistent playmaking prior to CJ's arrival after Lonzo left in the offseason, and of course, he was without Zion for help the whole year. He shot over 38% from deep the last 2 seasons and shot 40% in the Pelicans' first round series against the Suns while averaging 27, 6, and 6, so I think he'll be perfectly fine. Then of course, there's rookie standout Herb Jones, who made all-rookie second team as a second-round pick due to his incredible defense, which earned him a starting role over the course of the year, one that he will carry over into this upcoming season. He also shot about 34% from 3, which isn't incredible, but it's perfectly fine for a rookie, and I expect that number to climb closer to 35% this season, which is perfectly fine. Then we of course have Zion, who's joined in the front court by Jonas Valanciunas, who averaged just under 18 points per game and shot 36.1% from 3 in 2022. So it is a great starting unit. Off the bench, they have guys like Larry Nance Jr., Jackson Hayes, Devontae Graham, Trey Murphy III, Jose Alvarado, and Dyson Daniels. Nance is a solid defensive 4. Jackson Hayes had a surprisingly solid year this past season, playing a lot of minutes at the 4 as well as the 5. Devontae Graham's a solid shooter, Trey Murphy III is a great shooter who has a ton of 3-and-D upside, Jose Alvarado is Chris Paul's biggest nightmare, and Dyson Daniels was the 6th overall pick this draft, heading into the year as a bit of an X factor for the team. He projects as a solid shooter, defender, and playmaker, all of which could greatly benefit the Pels. So this roster is really good. I think they could have a huge year, and potentially a Grizzlies-type jump is in store for them. Now, I will say, the Western Conference is completely stacked. There's the Warriors, Suns, Grizzlies, Mavericks, Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Clippers, along with the Blazers and Lakers looking to bounce back, in addition to the New Orleans Pelicans. It is a loaded conference. But the Pelicans, this past season, made the playoffs despite missing Zion the whole year. They won 36 games, with Brandon Ingram being the lone star for a majority of the season, with CJ not joining till the final 21 games, and they started the year 1-12. The worst record, I believe, ever to make the playoffs, or at least the worst in a long time. In my opinion, Zion, when healthy, is a top 15 player in the NBA, and more than capable of increasing the team's win total by at least 10 games, if not more. The Pelicans not only have drastically improved the overall talent on the roster, but they've built a team that highlights Zion's strengths. CJ, Herb, Ingram, and Jonas can all shoot the ball, as well as some others off the bench. CJ and Ingram are both capable playmakers and scorers that can deliver Zion the ball in his spots, as well as take some of the pressure off of him by each potentially putting up around 20 or more points per game this season. Additionally, none of those star players on the team are ball dominant. They can each create for themselves as well as others, which should prevent the offense from being one-dimensional and overburdening a guy like Zion. Hell, without Zion, this Pelicans team took the 64-win Phoenix Suns to a 6-game series as an 8 seed this past year. In my opinion, they are primed for a leap that will put Zion even more in the spotlight than he already is. So we've established that the Pelicans are a really good team that's capable, in my opinion, of being successful enough for Zion to make an MVP push. So then the question is, can Zion put up the stats to win? Yes, he can. Now, will Zion average 27 points per game again? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, the addition of CJ and Jonas will take away from some of that scoring output, but their ability to space the floor is so valuable to Zion and could honestly just elevate him even more. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Zion put up near 30 points per game this upcoming season. We could also see his assist numbers rise with an increased number of shooters and options to dish to when defenses collapse. Zion played a bit of a point forward role at times in 2021, and I would really like to see him do that again this year. Letting Zion bring the ball up and make decisions immediately puts downhill pressure on the defense, which could open the game up a lot for New Orleans and allow them to play at a higher pace if they want to, or they could let CJ or Ingram bring it up and take a bit of a slower approach. They have the potential to be a highly dynamic offense that suits all of Zion's strengths, giving him a chance to put up insane stats. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and averages very similar numbers to his sophomore season, if not better. Of course, he also hasn't played in a year, which could lead to having a pretty slow start. However, I don't anticipate this being much of an issue for Zion. I think having a full year off for rest will allow him to come back healthier than he's been in quite some time and ready to go. There's also always a risk of re-injury with Zion, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that he does remain healthy for the year, and if he does, he's going to have a monster season. One of the biggest issues to him winning MVP, though, is the competition, of course. Guys like Giannis, Embiid, Luka, Steph, and Kevin Durant have a bit more notoriety and could all put up ridiculous stats on winning teams. I don't think Nikola Jokic will get too much consideration, honestly, due to voter fatigue, even though I'm 100% sure he'll likely be a deserving candidate. But still, those are some big names out there. This is part of the reason why Zion is a bit more of a dark horse candidate than a name you'll hear a lot of people say, but I do think he should be getting a lot more respect. Zion's betting odds to win MVP are currently listed at plus 5,000. Those are the same odds as Cat, Donovan Mitchell, and Anthony Edwards, and I think he has a better chance than all of those names to win the award. To me, he's the clear number one on a team that could quickly rise to the top. He could set records, he'll generate highlights, and a bounce-back narrative could be just what Zion needs to take home the hardware. If I had to make a prediction, I don't think Zion ends up winning. My pick at the moment is Joel Embiid, as I think he'll finally have Jokic out of the way, and I expect the Sixers to be really good, but for all the reasons I've mentioned, Zion is a name that I just keep coming back to as a possibility. This Pelicans team is stacked. Despite being a deep Western Conference, I think their combination of youth, star power, and just, having that recent playoff experience puts them in a prime spot for a jump that I don't think many people are anticipating to the level that I am. I would be very surprised if the Pelicans don't make a lot of noise out west, and I think Zion is going to be a big benefactor from the way that they've really revolutionized this roster. The pieces that they've put around him, it allows him to play his game to the fullest and the way it should be played. If he was putting up 27 points per game on the efficiency that we saw in his sophomore season with absolutely no spacing, I can't imagine what he's going to be doing this season. So, if we reach the end of this upcoming year and Zion is lifting that trophy as the Pelicans gear up for a deep playoff run, just don't say I didn't warn you. Don't sleep on Zion. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps me out a lot. Drop me your MVP pick below in the comment section. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. I appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, please leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.